We need to find this place or we'll be late.
Make a left on Astrology Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant right. It should be right here. 444 Spearway. Oh, turn.
It looks like Renee. Yay, we're on time. The James and Kelly Show.
Great, let's start the show. Hello, Teddy, my love.
Hey, honey. How are you doing today?
Good. How was your weekend?
It was nostalgic.
Well,
And
now that was kind of worms.
I loved every second of it. I just love, the world moves so fast, James. And we talk about this all the time, moving fast and moving faster and moving faster. And it was just kind of nice to take a weekend just to kind of look at the past and look at some, have good memories, the good memories.
Good.
And it was lovely.
Pajamas and stayed the whole weekend in pajamas and watched movies.
Yes, that's exactly.
Good.
It was fabulous. How about you?
I'm in the middle of filing, which I love. Being a Virgo, I'm
Yeah.
filing like 2 years worth of papers and documents, and before they become obsolete, I'm going to file them. So doing that, and I love to do that. I love to clean and everything in order. It's good.
Yeah.
Relaxing.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And it's
Well,
raining.
It's pouring rain where you are, and I see Pearl in the background.
Pearl's right with me. Yep, she's at her Betty.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I love to see her. Oh my gosh, let's say hi to some people.
Sure,
Hi, Colette. Hi,
Clark.
Lori.
Richard.
Ooh, hi, Karen Ann from Wollongong, Australia.
Wow, cool. Susie
How
Burrows,
cool.
hello. Tracy, hello.
Hi, Gayla. Hi, Pam. Hi, Lori.
Oh, good to
Hi.
see you, Rita.
Hi, oh, yeah. Hi, Renee.
I love getting people from all over the world to come to see this.
Isn't it fun? I
Right.
just love it. It's
Hello,
so great.
Dr. Susie. Hello, Dr. Susie. I just saw you earlier today.
Hi, Susie Burrows. I love it. This is so fun.
And we have a very exciting show, so we should probably what you were talking about
Let me, do,
astrology.
let me do a little astrology. And then
Things have felt better, by the way, since last week. Is it because everything's direct? Is that what's going
everything's direct. So
Correct.
there's a lot of energy. Everything is direct until April 1st. Ton of energy pushing through. So you might feel like
That's a lot.
cleaning, organizing, getting
Creating,
up,
finishing a book?
finishing a book.
Your book.
Yes. My book. Yes. Anything like that. I mean, this is a really, really powerful time. But another thing that we have two amazing experiences coming up. The first one is February 22nd. And I really want to talk about this. You've heard me talk about the Pluto return. So
Yeah.
in the United States chart, there's a Pluto return, and it happens every 248 years. So 248 years ago was when we had our Constitution, James. I mean,
right.
248 years ago in 1776. Well,
Notes. Okay.
take notes. There will be 3 exact natal positions in the United States chart this year, and it makes this very powerful. The first one is February 22nd. So when that exact natal position happens on the 22nd, we're looking at, in the United States, a time of social and political unrest. And the next time will be in July, and the next time will be the end of December this year. So this is the Pluto return for the United States will happen for the entire year, but these exact dates are very powerful dates.
Well, besides the planet here, many people I know are having medical procedures on the 22nd. 3 people I know.
Oh, how fascinating. Really?
Anything
So
else
that
about that? Or
auspicious about that? Well, yeah. I mean, it has a lot to do with this Pluto return, I think. And also, there were so many other planets. Everything's direct. Do you remember me saying that this year is an 8 year, which is karmic?
Yes.
And 8 represents healing, health, the bridge between this world and the other world. But this year is all about Saturn, which is all about healing. So we're going to see a lot of people. If you're going to have an operation or something, this is the time to do it. All the planets are direct, So it's an amazing time I think, for all of that. And to look at your health, for everybody to look at their health. So the next thing that I want to talk about is on February 24th. And February 24th, we have a full moon. And in Vedic astrology, it's in Leo. And we call it the snow moon. And this is, because it's in Leo, this full moon on February 24th, take advantage of it. It means to take charge of your life. It means to be brave. It's a great time for karmic healing practices. So put your crystals out, make your moon water, meditate, journal, but look at it. And in fact, and I love the fact that we have this guest who's going to be talking about healing in different forms, but it's about healing, your healing journey. So really pay attention to how you're, what do you physically, how do you want to change? And mentally, how do you want to change?
Good
so
time.
It's a very, very powerful time. This is a powerful week, everybody. So, okay.
Okay. Well, when I was in, one good thing, a lot of good things came out of my tour when I was in Europe. One of the best things that came out was I met Amanda Charles, who's our guest tonight, and I just connected with her, and she's a therapist and a medium like yourself. But so I thought, you have to. And she came out with a book. Today's the premiere of her book, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And I thought we have to be in the show. People will love you.
Oh yeah. So wait, let me do her bio. Let me just
please.
read a little bit of her bio, because this is Dr. Amanda Charles that we're talking about, and her bio goes like this: with one foot firmly rooted in the world of science and the other connected to the intuitive realms, Amanda Charles is a highly experienced international chartered counseling psychologist, registered practitioner psychologist. She's a life coach. She does NLP, EFT, and EMDR practitioner. She's a hypnotherapist. She's a Reiki healer, a psychic medium, and a meditation teacher. She's now branded as the psychic psychologist. Mm-hmm. And Amanda is uniquely placed to bridge the gap between psychology and the energetic realms, as in addition to traditional research-based psychological strategies, Amanda looks through the lens of quantum science, taking into consideration our essence as a multidimensional energetic being. Having combined these two disciplines to repeatedly heal herself from chronic illness, pituitary tumors, infertility, and a series of devastating deaths, Amanda's mission is to show others how they can heal from suffering too.
And very kind person, very well balanced, might I say.
So let's welcome Dr. Amanda Charles.
Hey,
yay! Hi, Amanda. Nice to
so happy you're here with us today.
We're thrilled.
I have to tell you,
so much for having me.
Loving your book, The Psychic Psychologist. Loving it. It has so much great information. And we should tell everybody where you're located and what time it is for you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It's very special we have Amanda right on the show. Amanda,
Yeah,
where are you?
I'm just outside London, so it's 2 a.m. So please forgive me if I get some brain fog.
And yes. And Renee, you want to put the link on for Amazon, I guess, to get your book, which I think would be.
So tell us, I love your background. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes.
So I've been a psychologist for over 20 years now. So I've been working in private practice. And that's really been my focus. When I left university, I went and I was doing occupational psychology. So very much going into, I worked for Reuters. So looking at leadership development, change management, that kind of thing. And that was very much my focus. For most of my life up until that point, I had disconnected, shall we say, from the more intuitive elements to myself. I found it really difficult to fully embrace them. I was kind of one of the skeptics, a bit of an eye roller. And so I found it really, really difficult. Even though I'd had some really phenomenal experiences, I really struggled to own that. And certainly coming out as the psychic psychologist, that in itself very much felt like professional suicide.
I understand that.
Yes,
very much.
Yeah, but it feels really, really important for me to kind of bring these teachings to the world, because if we are excluding this energetic realm, then we are blind to a part of the problem and the solution, really.
And what was your breaking point? I guess you'd call it, whatever you want to call it, where you decided I've got to merge these two together. What happened that made you think that way?
Yeah, it's interesting, James, because through my life, I've kind of disconnected and reconnected. So there's been quite a journey. And initially, the book was called The Connected Self, because it is all about connecting in with the self on all the various levels of the self, which I'm sure Kelly wants to talk about as well in a moment, but also your past, your present, and your future. So, for me, it was very much about kind of living my truth. So, when I was 21, I was diagnosed with a pituitary tumor. And I actually now, with hindsight, believe that I kind of manifested that really through this disconnect, through disowning the more intuitive side. As you know, the pituitary gland and the pineal gland are connected, and that's the doorway through to connecting in with all these higher vibrational frequencies and with the spiritual realms. So I actually believe that the fear I experienced as a teenager was partly, what created this physical block. And it was through reconnecting. So this is when I still worked at Reuters, and a girl that worked for me said, my husband really said he feels like he really needs to help you. And I was very poorly with this tumor, and I kind of went along. I hadn't even heard of Reiki. I was 21. I didn't know. So they started to do Reiki, and nothing really happened. And they said, we need you to come along tomorrow. And so I did, because I felt rude if I didn't. And they did it. And all of a sudden, I gave way to the process, and I was having these purple pulsating balls. I was experiencing lots of memories from when I was younger. It was all flooding back, And I then learnt how to do it for myself. I started reading Deepak Chopra's Quantum Healing, and I was doing visualization and meditation. I didn't really realize what I was fully doing, but I just kind of went ahead and did it. And when I went back to the endocrinologist, he said spontaneous recovery ? Across my notes, because my levels had gone from 15,000 to less than 10. But he wouldn't have it that I'd kind of healed myself, shall we say. It had to be a spontaneous recovery. So that was kind of my first route in, but it wasn't really until, so actually as part of healing the tumor, I also healed I was told by 2 doctors by that point that I wouldn't be able to have my own children because of the tumor and because of endometriosis. But inadvertently, I cured that, because then I became pregnant with my first daughter. And it was in my second pregnancy that my life kind of took a switch. So, James, this is the beginning of me fully accepting, because I disconnected again after healing the tumor, went back to Reuters, carried on in my science.
What year was this?
This was 2003, 2004. Well, actually, no, I had my daughter in 2001, so probably a bit before then.
Amanda, quick question. Did you feel at all when you started doing the Reiki or started meditating, was there any part of you which felt like I resonate? Some part of me resonates with this, or was it not at all?
Yeah, no. So I went suddenly fully into it, and I didn't realize that I had this natural ability to kind of ascend quite high, which is why I think I was able, and I healed it very quickly. I mean, I healed it, it healed very quickly. So yeah, I actually definitely knew I had an affinity, and it made me realize, as a child, I used to get all this kind of energy in my hands, and I'd know things about people that I shouldn't know. I knew that my granddad died, sadly, and I knew that my uncle was I said to my mom, I was 7, that my uncle was going to die from a broken heart. And she just thought that was obviously a bit strange, but I didn't realize he was 35. I didn't realize he was waiting for a triple heart bypass. Had no idea. And he died within 9 months. There are a number of situations like that I then remembered and kind of realized I had an affinity to this. But
and you didn't think you were a freak or anything? You didn't think, well, weird. What did you think? This is natural, or did you think this is freakish, or what was your reaction?
No, back then it just seemed normal. So I didn't have anybody to explain things to me. So like the energy and the knowings, my parents they wouldn't so much dismiss it, but they didn't really engage in it so much, shall we say. So I didn't really have any explanation. And, I was just saying to somebody the other day that there's some things that even only recently I've realized not everybody can do. So my daughter she'd shown me some photographs when she was at school, from these people. And I went, and I was talking about one of the boys in the photograph and saying that, he had a problem with like drugs and alcohol and da, da, da. And she was just like, Mum, you don't even know him. I went, no, but you can tell, can't you? She said, well, how can you tell? And I said, by looking at the photo, you can tell. And she went, no, Mum, you can't tell about people's lives looking at the photograph. So I didn't even know, so.
Does it run in your family at all? Does it genetically?
Yes. Yes, interestingly, I wasn't aware of this, but my cousin, so my mum had lots of experiences, but after my dad died, my cousin and I had some really phenomenal experiences, which is what actually allowed me to think, right, I have to do this. So after my mum died in 2004, I was having a chat with my dad, and actually, it was after my brother died. They died very close together, my dad, my mum, and my brother. And whilst I was pregnant with my second daughter.
Oh.
So 2 months into the pregnancy, my sister-in-law died. 4 months into the pregnancy, my mum died. 5 months into the pregnancy, my brother-in-law died. Then I had a really traumatic birth. I'd had lots of precognitive dreams all throughout my life. And I started having dreams that one of us was going to die. And I didn't know, so like Kelly, whether it was like trauma from having experienced all the deaths, or whether this was a precognitive dream. I would literally see the midwife come in with her name badge. I knew this was the moment, and it happened during the birth. This lady, Kate Wolger, came into the room, and I just knew, you know, it's going to happen now. And it was time to push, and Lila didn't make a sound. So in that moment, something extended out, and I had a life in front of me when my baby had died. And actually a part of me died in that moment, you know, because I thought it was going to actually happen, but it didn't, luckily. 9 weeks later, though, my own brother died. And then he was 36. Then my father-in-law died, and my own dad was diagnosed with a very rare brain disease, where over the next 10 years, he progressively lost all functioning until he was locked in his body, totally consciously aware, but unable to move at all. So I'm coming to the point. Yeah, that's quite a bit, actually. I'll pause.
No. It's amazing what you have survived, and
incredible.
It's incredible stories, and I want people to hear that.
Thank you.
I mean, that's really tremendous what you went through.
It's quite unusual, isn't it, to have all of that?
And this was between 2000 and 2004?
So the death started in 2004, and my dad eventually died in 2015. So it was actually, so you were asking, James, about whether it runs in the family. I had no awareness that it did until the night of my dad's funeral. So after my mum and my brother died, I had a conversation with my dad, and I said to him, this is before I knew he was ill, you know, if and when something happens to you, can you please come back and show me, just so that I know for sure whether we do survive physical death, because I am so fed up of, you know, discounting things or looking for a scientific explanation. Because seriously, I'd had so many things happen. Like most people, one of those they might believe, you know, and I was still struggling. And he promised, I made a joke. Well, I said, you know, we need to, you know, decide what that's going to be. Come and move the toilet paper or something. And then I went, no, that's just weird. I don't want my dad in the loo with me. And we hadn't fully sorted out what we were actually going to do. But when he was in the process of dying, I mentioned it again and again at the Chapel of Rest. And there were a whole host of things that happened, and I won't go into them because there are a lot that were quite significant. But I'd said to him, it needs to be beyond all doubt for me to actually believe it. And I needed to believe it to be able to come out as the psychic psychologist. So by that point, I had looked into, I'd got quantum science sorted, I'd got epigenetics, neuroimmunology, all these kind of things, but it still wasn't fully enough for me to own it. And the two big experiences that allowed me to come into this world was the night of the funeral. We were at a table with my dad's brothers, so there were quite a few of us at this table in this Indian restaurant, and there was music playing. We were the only people in this restaurant, and it was like dinga 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 dinga, you know, like really quite funky Indian music. And my brother had already died by this point, and his son and his wife were at the table. And they said, oh, I see they didn't play the Phil Collins track at your dad's funeral, but they played the Celine Dion one. My dad met somebody very quickly after my mum died, and people didn't particularly like her. And so they said, oh, I bet that was the track that she wanted. And then in my mind, my dad said to me, no, that's the music we played at your mum's funeral. And I couldn't remember that. So I said, no, I think that's the music we played at my mum's funeral. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, superimposed over the Indian music was the panpipe introduction to Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On. And it was playing and it was for about 20 seconds and everybody heard it. But interestingly, my husband didn't, and neither did my cousin's boyfriend. They're very shut off to this world. It doesn't end there. So we all heard it. So now I'm like, okay, I've got evidence in front of people. I'd had lots come through from the car. I'd be having questions, and then the radio would come on and answer the questions. One was about bringing the psychic and the psychologist together, and then there will be an answer. Let it be came through. It's just like interesting. So the night we went back to my cousin's house, and everyone had gone to bed, and I was chatting with my cousin and telling her about all these events that were kind of in my life that led me off the path that I had to then reconnect with the body and the mind and the spirit. And all of a sudden there was this whoosh out of nowhere. I felt this intense cold, like if you see on the films, don't you, these big butcher's freezers when they walk in and the cold hits them. And then I had this image of being in the chapel of rest with my dad, and the hairs on my arm just stood up. I was just like, oh, I felt like my dad's here. We weren't trying to do anything. We were just talking, and then it happened again. And then I said something else, and it was like he was communicating with me through this cold. So then I got up and I sat next to her and I said, look at this. And then it was literally like the life had drained out of me and I couldn't speak. So bear in mind, my dad couldn't speak before he died. I couldn't speak. So she sat on the chair with me, and then she looked at me and she went, I don't want to alarm you, but I can see Uncle Tony. It's Uncle Tony. I can see your face, but I can see, my dad was called Tony. I can see Uncle Tony's jaw.
He transfigured on you. He transfigured.
Which you talk a lot about, James.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I hadn't done this before. I didn't know about this. I didn't know.
Surprise!
I was like, I couldn't speak. So that may be a thing with transfiguration. I'm not sure, but is it, James, that you can't speak, or would it have been my dad? I don't know.
You could have been lightly put into a trance, an altered state, is what happened. An altered state, and he came obviously came so close, impressed you, and came into your space, your auric field, and kind of he moved you out of the way, and he came through.
So I freaked out, obviously.
And he went, psychic. You're a natural, is what that means, really.
Yeah. So then I said, my cousin said, he's not going to want to scare you. So I said, look, Dad, if that really is you, please come back. And he did. And then she asked, oh, can you do it to me so that Amanda can see you? And it was a no. So we were talking to him for a little while, but then things changed and it got a little bit scary. So we stopped. But the thing so even that was it wasn't quite enough, but the next day, something really tiny, but so profound is what made me think, you know what, my dad suffered for 10 years, locked in his body. If he can do that, I can step out into this. So the next morning, my cousin went to the shower, and I'd said to her before she went in, I don't know whether that was like my dad from before my mum died, or my dad, it felt like he was angry at the end. It wasn't my dad at the end, but, and anyway, so she was in the shower and she got this message and she came down. So bear in mind, I didn't know that she could do this thing as well. So this is how I find out. She came down and she said, look, I feel like I'm meant to say to you, firstly, you're meant to write all this down, which I didn't, but I've got it all stored. Then she said, your dad says your dad's your dad. There's no two ways. Anyway, so then I go in the shower. So I'm there in the shower and I'm like, I want to speak to my dad. Like, this isn't fair. He's spoken to her. I wanted to speak to me. And then again, in my mind, I'm like, no, again, this is just really weird. I don't want my dad joining me in the shower. And out of nowhere, my dad said to me, I see you as you see me right now. It's not like that. It's just energy. And there was just something about, and I knew that, I'd learned all of that. I'd done the quantum science, etc. But there was something in that moment that really touched, and it's from that moment that I was just like, right, this is it. I'm stepping
it got you out of your left brain, actually, just opened you up to your heart, really.
Yeah, yes, Kelly. Yep, that's
I mean,
it.
you really were very scientifically left brain based, which actually makes your book so phenomenal because you talk about it from a scientific way, but really from a deeply spiritual healing way. And
Okay.
so the way you've combined it, and it must have been hard for you because having a strong left brain, for me, fortunately, I did not have a strong left brain. I really didn't have one. It was all right brain for me. I had to learn the left brain part of it. So for you, you would have had to be asking for these experiences. And it sounds like you've really centered yourself with this and grounded yourself with the understanding that both exist.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with what you're saying there, Kelly. I think I had to have some really profound experiences for it to be enough. And I don't think I think it was literally so that I can speak my truth. Like without it, I've always said, from a very young age, I always knew I was here to help people to help and heal themselves. But I've always said, I won't fully believe something until I experience it for myself.
Well, especially when you come out as a psychologist doing mediumship or talking about mediumship or being a healer or working in that realm. It was James that pushed me out of the nest, basically, because I was a medium first and then went back to grad school. So it was different. I had a different road than you do, but it's the same road.
And Amanda makes you very grounded in your work. I mean, you're so grounded.
Totally.
The best mediums out there, or psychics or energy workers, are the ones that are most grounded because you have the feet firm and planted on the ground. Yeah.
And you actually, in your book, you do talk about grounding. Do you want to mention a little grounding techniques for people?
Yeah, for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, grounding is really important, as you say, because we are energetic beings, but we're multidimensional, aren't we? So we are physical beings, and so we need to be grounded. And if you I'm sure a lot of your listeners out there are psychics and mediums, and in order to ascend, we need to be fully grounded. And it can be so simple, just walking out in the garden with bare feet. You can buy things, can't you? There are these things that that you plug onto your
I'm sitting on one now. I got my feet on one. Earthly Man. We had him on our show. I love that.
Excellent. But yeah, water is a really good grounding tool as well, isn't it? So yeah, for me, within the book, I wanted to really bring home the fact that we need to live it. We live in this physical world and we live in this physical body, and we need to kind of regulate that body on every level of the self. So we need to be connected in physically.
So, speaking of that, in your book, you talk about Maslow, and you talk about Maslow's hierarchy of healing and of needs. And let's talk about that, because I love how you bring it into your hierarchy of healing, which I think is so important for people to hear.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the concepts that I talk about, so yes, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the concept whereby we need to meet our basic needs before anything else. So that's, food, warmth, shelter, etc. If you haven't got that, then, you're not going to be able to, it's self-actualization at the top. You're not going to be able to have great relationships.
If you're worried about survival. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So we have to
meet your basic needs, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was kind of thinking about the whole process. So my life experience has showed me that it's what I call inner tuition. So not intuition. So we've got our intuition, but inner tuition. So we have a language that speaks through the body, through our emotions, through our mind, through our relationships, through our life experience. And so we need to be aware of our inner tuition. And the hierarchy of healing talks about all of these levels. And so we need to firstly connect in with our inner tuition at a physiological level. We need to be
looking at our physiology, like what you need to take care of. If you're ill, what do you need to take care of?
Absolutely, yes. So this is the thing as well. Often people will think, if I'm a medium or a psychic, then I can't be taking medication, or so this is not an or it's an and. So we're looking at our physical needs first, and so attending to that, but listening to the body, because the body speaks our truth.
It's true.
And if we're not processing our emotions or our thoughts, then we're in a toxic relationship, let's say, and that can be with ourselves or with someone else. It's going to manifest on a physical level if we're not listening. A bit like I said earlier with the tumor.
Yeah,
I've had so many experiences of that. And then the next level up is the emotional level of the self. So we have to be fully present in the moment to be connected in with our emotions, and our emotions live in the body, so they have to come after the body. And the biochemistry, we've got Candice Pert, who talks of the molecules of emotion. Our emotions produce biochemistry within the body that then influences us on a physiological level. But our emotions also connect in with our thoughts. We used to think that it was the other way around, but actually there's a lot more information that goes up from the heart, from the emotions into the brain. So we need to look at the emotional level of the self, and then we move up to the thinking mind. We look at the thinking level of the self. We're looking at maladaptive beliefs. So that's a bit more traditional psychology, looking at the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors. So then the psychic psychologist comes in, and we're looking in at an energetic level of the self, which obviously infiltrates all those levels too. So once you've worked your way through that, you're looking at, what's happening on an energetic level, and then your intuition, how you're connecting in with your, I call it telepathy. So when you're in a deep empathic connection with another person, then you can connect in and you can get lots of information through. So I kind of almost see even mediumship as the same thing. So, I can find out something from you psychically through what I call telepathy, but also, connect in there if I've raised my vibrational frequency enough to be able to do that. And then the final level of the hierarchy of healing is your relationship with yourself and with other people, because you can only be as connected to someone else to the degree that you're connected in with yourself. So you have to work all the way through those levels. And again, if you're wanting to, so that's part of my release and reprogramming method. So if you're wanting to release something from your life, like the tumor, I wanted to release a physical problem, you start on the physical and you work your way up in the way that I've just done. But if you're wanting to call something into your life, so if you've processed your past and you've regulated your system in the present, you can consciously construct the future you, the future life you'd rather be living. And you construct that on all the levels of the self again. What would you be thinking, feeling, doing as that person? And then you're bringing that into the present moment, but you're bringing it down from the energetic realm through into your relationships, into your thoughts, into your feelings, and then finally into the physical.
Wow. Amanda, do you find that you work resonate more as a medium or as a psychic or as a healer? Is there one discipline that you stands out, or just all of them combined, or different clients, different things?
I would say I very much meet the needs of the client. So I would probably use the term healer to kind of branch all of it. So I don't work as a medium or a psychic, like on the surface. So I don't do readings. I don't do psychic readings or mediumship. So for me, we all do different things. So I combine the two. So I might help my clients bring into their conscious mind what's happening at a subconscious level. So I might get some images or some, I often feel things through the body. So I will interpret what's happening through me to them, and then we'll kind of check it out and work through it together. So it's kind of like another layer, another level to the way I work. But
do you work a lot with grief?
Interestingly, I've had my fair share. Yeah, I mean, I work with everything, to be honest, so many different things. But what I have found, which is quite interesting, is you probably won't, you'll be like, yeah, of course. But different clients come to me at different points in my life and my journey that kind of reflect.
Interesting too, right?
Yeah, it is fascinating.
I was thinking because you had so much loss that you would really relate to it so well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. Obviously, mediumship can really help people that are lost and have had loss. But for me, my journey is what has led me to choose not to do that. And we all do different things. So for me, back in 2004, after my mum died, I was sat there pregnant, and I'd had all of these experiences. And again, it was this point of, I just want to know beyond all doubt. And in my mind, there was just this pull to switch the television on. So I put the TV on, and it was a BBC documentary with your good friend Gordon Smith. And in my mind, he'll show you beyond all doubt. Didn't realize that was going to be one of his future books, but that was exactly what came through. So I obviously thought, I need a reading from Gordon. I need a reading from someone to prove to me. So my friends booked tickets to go to one of his events, which I did. A couple of thousand people in the audience, and I'm sat there and I'm like, yeah, Gordon, he's going to give me a reading and it's going to prove beyond all doubt. And I didn't get my reading. So I was just sat there like a bit deflated. You know, there's a lot of people in that room. So I thought, right, I'm not giving up. I never give up. So I queued up, thought I'll get him to sign my book and I can ask him if I could get a reading. And he went, oh, no, dear, I don't do readings right now. You'll have to wait about 5 years. So I was like, no, that's fine. I don't mind waiting. And he went, no, I couldn't do that to you. And then it was Hay House. So Hay House kind of pushed me along. Little did I know I'd be writing my book for them a few years later. Wow. They pushed me out of the way, didn't get my reading. So I went online and I was trying to book this reading, couldn't get a reading. And then this course came up in advanced mediumship. Bear in mind, I've done nothing. I've just had these experiences myself. But I'm like, no, I know. He is going to show me. So I went to this course and they split the group. And I wasn't with Gordon, and I was with Mary Armour. I don't know whether you've met Mary, James. No. So anyway, I was downstairs and they said, right, everyone was introducing themselves. They were all practicing professional mediums.
Like, oh my God.
Well, I was looking for the exit and there was no exit. So I was like, right, okay, I've just got to go for this. And we straight away platform. We have to come up to the front and deliver. Didn't know what I was doing. So I watched a few people, went to the front, and then all of a sudden this information came and I said, okay, I've got the name Stuart, and it's Stuart with a U, not with an E. And it's really important it's spelt with a U because everyone misspells his name and it really frustrates him. And then I felt like I was hanging. And I had this sense that he'd hung himself 6 months earlier and that he wanted people to know that, you know, he was okay, etc. I didn't know where this was coming from. And then it changed and there was this kind of whirlpool in front of me and I saw a wedding ring going down the whirlpool. So I was like, is this metaphorical? Is it kind of somebody's wedding, you know, marriage is going down the drain, or, you know, is this something happened? And it was deathly quiet. No one said anything. And I thought, oh. And then Mary, who was running it, said, oh, thank you so much, dear. Stuart was one of my students and I loved him dearly. And yes, he did. He hung himself 6 months earlier. And it was Stuart with a U, not with an E. Everyone would spell it wrong. And this morning, she said, I was washing my hands and this ring fell off into the sink. And I honestly, I'm telling you now, that was probably 2005. I actually thought she was such a sweet lady that she saved me. I didn't believe her.
Boy, you have a strong left.
You really do.
Wow. She is Shirley, Dr. Shirley. Wow.
It was only literally 5 years ago, I had a chat with Gordon and Mary was there. And I said, is that Mary? And I said, oh, she's so sweet. She's so nice. She saved me, blah, blah, blah. And he went, oh, I know Stuart. Yeah, Stuart. He was one of her students. And I went, really? And he went, yes, honestly. So anyway, I'm just diverting slightly. So that shows the degree to which I discount. But so over the years, I never got my reading with Gordon. I still haven't had my reading with Gordon. But from going to some of his courses, especially the ones where you're blindfolded and someone sits in front of you, every single time I have known who is going to sit in front of me before the break. I've known exactly who it is. You know, one in particular, I was talking about her necklace. It's really important for your wellness, I was saying. At the end, she turned it around and it had wellness written on the back of it. You know, there's so many things. Obviously, I'm sure you've both experienced loads of this. But for me, well, that still wasn't enough because that was before my dad died, obviously. But the journey there is what has fully shown me through my own lived experience, you know, being able to tell people really obscure, detailed things. So, for example, I knew this Chinese lady was going to sit in front of me, and she did. She was the only one in this room. There was a room of about 50 people from all around the world, and she was there. I knew it was her in my soul. I just knew it was this lady. But then I had this sense of a grandfather. Caucasian. She didn't look anything Caucasian at all. Caucasian, I said, and the name Bert. That really didn't fit at all. So then I just said, well, I'm just going to say it. I've got nothing to lose. And as soon as I said Bert, it changed to Albert. And then I saw mountains, and he's from Alberta in Canada. Wow. And it was his grandfather, and he was Caucasian. And I had this lump in my throat, and I said, I feel like he died choking. No, I didn't. He died choking on his 80th birthday. She said, yes, he did on his birthday cake. So, I mean, you don't get that. Where does that come from? You know, like.
Did you start believing in yourself then?
I mean, I did and I didn't. But it's the whole process was, had I had a reading from Gordon, I'm sure you can hear what's coming next. It would never have been enough.
It never would have happened.
Never.
To me, I would have.
Intelligence of that world, Amanda. The intelligence of that world.
Yeah, you know.
What did Mavis used to call them? Droplets of God.
Droplets of God.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it's never enough.
Birthday, Amanda.
Pardon?
When is your birthday? I'm just curious.
26th of September.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
perfect.
Virgo Libra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I always say that those are the most psychic people that come in from about your birthday, James, August 23rd. My birthday is September 20th, till about the end of September. It's a very, very psychic, and they're all about healers and healing others and
groundedness.
Groundedness. I mean, it's very, very important. And also, in your birthday comes in as sacrifice. So you would really have learned an awful lot. You would have had a lot of endings, a lot of completions, and a lot of sacrifice. So you're doing well. You're doing great, actually.
I'm still here.
And I think you needed that left brain because of all of that loss.
Yeah.
You had to get through all of those losses.
Yeah. I actually do genuinely think now, as I look back, that, you know, I did know as a young child that, as I said, I was here to help people to help and heal themselves. But I knew that I would go through a lot of suffering in order to do that. Now, that's not to say that you have to suffer, but I knew that was my journey, so that I could fully connect in and understand and empathize.
It makes you a wonderful therapist. I bet your patients love you.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, they do actually. Throughout, even before I came out, they would often say, "Are you psychic or something? I haven't told you that." Or "You're saying exactly."
That's my favorite thing. Before you came out, isn't that funny how now we have to use that expression now with this? What do you think? Because we're really on a path here with either a lot of mediums that are learning psychology, or a lot of psychologists going back and learning mediumship or understanding spirituality, which I think is so important for the future.
I was going to be a psychologist at school.
You'd make a great therapist, James.
At university, I was going to be a psychologist. Yeah. At the last minute, I decided to be a sitcom writer, but I was going to be a psychologist. So there we go.
Awareness of people to be a sitcom writer, actually.
You need a lot of everything, don't you?
Yeah.
We wear many hats. Yeah. So do you work as a psychologist now? Is that your full time? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You're
so
pretty far in advance, I would think.
Yeah, I am. But I mean, it was interesting because when I wasn't ready to be the psychic psychologist, but I knew it was meant for me. So I got the trademark, I got the website, I got the Instagram, all those kind of things, but there was no photo of me. There was my name wasn't attached to it. And then suddenly people were starting to ask for it. And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I don't do that. Because I wasn't quite sure what that was at that point. And then eventually through COVID, actually, I embraced it. It was Gordon actually that initially called me the psychic psychologist, and I very much rolled my eyes and I was like,
so you were the eye roller.
Yeah, I'm the eye roller, yeah. Yeah,
but it's a perfect combination for what you do. It is. Tell me, how do you work with trauma? I mean, I know you tell everybody you do EMDR, you do a lot of the different techniques. Yeah. What do you prefer, or what do you think about that?
You know, EMDR is really good, and it can be a very quick tool. To those that don't know, it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, where we're kind of using the hands to kind of replicate REM sleep, so that we can start processing bilaterally the trauma. So, I mean, I do use that. I use a whole host of different approaches depending on the client, to be honest. But I do think helping people to connect in on all those different levels of the self, really, I wouldn't hone in on one thing, but I will use different techniques that might fall under each of those areas of the self in order to help people in a different way.
And Amanda, you're open to changing yourself too, right? Along this journey to learn something new and maybe go in another direction or something else. So you're open to doing all that, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Right.
So I've had to evolve with things, and I can see that I'm going to evolve now that the book's out there. I'm owning it. So now clients that didn't know kind of know, and
that's always a real fun thing, isn't it? When all of a sudden somebody once took my card, I'll never forget, and he looked at it. I was really tempting fate to put my cards out, and it did say, medium and psychotherapist. And he took my card and he goes, "Are you like Madam like Chicory? Like, who do you think you are?" And I had to explain to him what I was doing. And you know what? It was the funniest thing. He just went right on with the session. It was as if it didn't matter.
Oh,
so some people really have that ability. Some people really want to know,
Yeah.
But now I'm just so fully out with it. I would never take, for me, I wouldn't take anybody unless they fully understand what I do and who I am.
Yeah. Well,
I've really embraced it.
Yeah, good. And
Amanda, you're opening the door for a lot of people. I mean, just think about it. You're the beginning. You're going to open the door for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great.
Yeah, because I'm not unique in this. There's two of us here on the call. Anybody.
But I think we're still pretty unique with it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, my mother was a psychologist back in the day. In 1970, she got her PhD, and there were very few female psychologists. Okay, very few, and she is the one that opened the door, and Dr. Shirley, for me to do the work I do. And then it was James that said, "Poof, you're doing it now." But we all walk a path of opening a lot of doors for a lot of people. And I really am so grateful that they opened the doors for me, and James opened the door for me. So we're helping everybody else.
Our soul's destiny, I guess you could say.
It's a destiny. Yeah.
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 That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Should we answer some questions we have here?
We should. Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people use EFT tapping and EMDR. Both are great tools. They are great tools. They are super tools.
And there's science behind them as well. A lot of people will think, "Oh, tapping, what's that going to do?" But there's a lot of scientific evidence that it can help with.
And Amanda, what happens when you're doing EFT or tapping or something else, and then all of a sudden they want to really maybe going through trauma through grief? Do you find you want to go into the mediumship? Will it automatically come into you, or do they have to ask that, or does it happen spontaneously?
I try to not bring in mediumship directly in that way, but I feel like they need,
if they need it.
Again, from my life experience, for me that wouldn't have helped. It wouldn't have been enough, and so they can go and see somebody that's a medium that does that. But for me, I almost feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't work in as the psychologist through the other elements. And I think especially with grief,
absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. When we talk about people coming in now, people are having awakenings at a much higher rate than they did, wouldn't you say, James, for 30 years ago? I mean, people really are waking up spiritually. And my concern has always been that if somebody goes to see a therapist and let's say their Kundalini energy is starting to go and they're really starting to have some experiences, and they tell their therapist, and the therapist poo-poos it or doesn't acknowledge it, that can really stunt and hurt somebody.
It could be a disservice, Kelly.
It can be a disservice. That's it. And so do you find a lot of people that are coming into your practice that are having spiritual awakenings now?
Yes. And it's really interesting. So I can tell you how I handle that, how I handled that before being the psychic psychologist. So, for example, I had a client and he came in and he met he ticked every box for having psychosis, and but he also ticked every single box of having just had a spiritual awakening.
Right.
So I was holding both of them in my hands at the same time.
Yep.
So I would talk to him and I would say, look, I wouldn't differentiate between the psychologist and not, but I would be saying to him, exactly what I've just said to you. You actually do meet all of these criteria. for having psychosis. You meet all these criteria. It could be a spiritual awakening. Now, we need to help you come to the point where you're happy with which camp, because they're going to take you in a different direction in your life. And, you know, you choose one, you go down one route, the other route opens up things. And for him, and he'd never shown any signs of being spiritually inclined either. So we spoke it through, and actually he came to the conclusion himself. He started reading some books, and he said, I think I've had a spiritual awakening. I said, right, okay, well, let's work with that. And he started writing his own book, you know. So you can think, had I not had that hat to put on, right, you know, he could have been in a very different place. Absolutely.
And there's a lovely saying, Amanda, that Mavis Patilla, our good friend Mavis Patilla, said, told us once, you can't be so spiritually aware that you know earthly good.
Yes.
I'm sure she'd like to use that whenever you'd like. You can't be so spiritually aware you know earthly good.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's so true. It's so true.
You need that balance, don't you? Absolutely. That's just one example, because obviously you gave that, but you know, I do see
well, it's an important example, because I remember for me, I had a traumatic brain injury, and that's what opened me up into this unbelievable Kundalini experience that changed my life. And I remember going to the hospital at UCLA, and the doctor looked at me and said, you know, do you see people? Are you hallucinating? I'll never forget that. And I said, oh, no. You know, meanwhile, I was watching his grandmother say, you know, I paid for your medical school. But, I knew that I'd be taken away.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah.
So
and
it's
I'm
really interesting, because I hold two spaces with that too. I mean, I have to look at, when I'm with a session, I don't care if it is mediumship. I don't care what it is. I'm using all tools that I have when I'm assessing a situation.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing. I'm not prescriptive in that way. I work collaboratively with the client, and, you know, we hold space for, you know, exploration and looking at, you know, well, I mean, I suppose that's what I've done all my life, haven't I? There are a number of different options that are going on here.
Right.
But it really opens the mind. It expands them and you, and especially them, and it opens up new worlds to them as well.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's completely changed his life, for example. Yeah.
Wow. Shannon Starr says, James, you've helped her with trauma and grief through your books.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. Thank you very much. Well, that's our job. That's right.
It is. So tell us a little bit more about your book. What inspired you to put it together? Is the Psychic Psychologist? It's so great. Heal your past, find peace in the present, and transform your future.
There's so much information in there, really valuable information.
I know. I was a bit worried I was over giving information, and that's been cut down. I now see why Hay House were like, we need to get rid of 20,000 words. You've got too much in this book. I practically wrote double that. There is a lot of information. But for me, the crux of it is that I want to help prevent people from suffering needlessly. I don't want them to have to go through things that I went through. I want to open their awareness to the possibilities that are out there, that we do create our own reality and we can heal ourselves, because we don't get taught this. And you know, the big thing is many people can't afford to come and see a psychologist, and many people, even if they do, won't necessarily see one that is aware of all this stuff. So I wanted to get it out there to help people that can't afford to go and see a therapist, but I also wanted to get it out there so that other therapists, psychologists, psychotherapists can read it and think, okay, that's interesting, and the science behind it, I'm going to look a bit more into that. Maybe I'll incorporate it into my practice. So it's kind of like to enable this to grow, so that people do think about all these different levels.
If you're a medium out there, or if you're a healer out there, you should be reading this book, because you put all kinds of information of techniques and different ways to heal and different ways to look at trauma and all kinds of amazing things in this book. It's a fabulous book, chock full of information.
It'll be like a Bible.
It really will be like a Bible. Yeah, it's got great information to it.
That's so interesting, James, because when I did the video to sell the book to Hay House, before I'd written it, I did call it a self-help Bible. So it's quite interesting.
How funny. Well, there's your validation.
There you go. So this is a good question. Michelle King says, Amanda, what is your experience with hypnosis?
Yeah, so that was one of the first areas I started to learn when I was shifting from Reuters into counselling psychology. I found it fascinating because when using hypnosis, some information started to come through from people's past lives, and for me, then I was like, not sure about this. I'm going to have to go and read some research. And actually, there's so much research on it. There's actually quite a lot.
There is.
Within the book, one of the chapters is called A Life Before Life. So I go from before, during, and after your birth when we look at the past. And so the before, we're bringing in ancestral trauma, cellular memory that gets passed down. We're bringing in past life trauma. We're bringing in intrauterine trauma. And all of these things. Yes, because obviously, and actually everything that's in the book, I have my own life experience of as well. So obviously I was pregnant with Lila when all the deaths happened. So there is a part of my life story in everything that I'm telling within this book. So with hypnosis, in answer to your the question there, I think, again, that's great on all the different levels, and it can be used on all the different levels. I haven't used it much more recently, I must say, but certainly back in the day, I had a few surprise situations. But even with EMDR that we were talking about earlier, that's brought some past life stuff through as well for people.
I bet.
Sure, there's a lot of soul memories as well that you're opening up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, do you know what? It doesn't matter if it's past life. It doesn't matter if it's true, if it's not true. It's actually representing something that the client is needing to work through. And so you just work with it, you know?
Yeah. Somebody, Liz Z says, I can't wait to read your book. How about creating a second book out of what they cut out from the first one?
I thought about that too when you said that. I thought the same exact thing.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, to be honest, the second book so the first book was meant to be kind of 70% psychology, 30% psychic, and the second book's going to be the other way around. So I think, you know, it's cut out, and that's fine. It's cut away, and the second book's going to be slightly different. But I might well do a workbook, like a big workbook that goes alongside this. I've done like a 62-page PDF that comes with the book that has the exercises, because I wanted people to be able to print them out and be able to work on them themselves. So
that's so great, so helpful for people.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I really, really want it to feel like people are having therapy. So, you know, I've done
they will
go with it and things like that. But I've also got a 168-page document as well that I've created, a workbook that goes alongside it. So maybe that will come out.
Just the beginning, Amanda. Just the beginning.
This is a comment from Denise Montillo. She says, so timely. I pre-ordered your book. I'm currently transitioning from a private investigation to trauma counselor who hopes to share my gifts doing earthly good with my energy gifts guiding to personal wellness. So if you're on this path, definitely get Amanda Charles's book. It's phenomenal. It's The Psychic Psychologist, everybody. The Psychic Psychologist.
There are no accidents, you know. It's fine timing that you're on the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Lori Young, I know you're studying to become a therapist in your medium, and you can't wait to get this book. Lori, you're going to love it.
I think Lori just said she's going to have it at her house tomorrow. Maybe there's another Lori, but a couple of those people said that. Yes.
Amazing. Well, I think it's lovely that you've got therapists on there as well, because that is literally one of the aims, is to get into their hands. So I'd be interested to hear what people have to say about it. It's exciting.
Did you put somatic therapy in your book? I couldn't remember if you did.
Not specifically. No. I had to. That was partly what was kind of had to.
Something had to go. Yeah.
I was trying to keep it simple and everyday tools and techniques that people could.
It's got great techniques in there. Great tips.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody was loving this. Really. Everybody's going to buy it and read it.
That's so good.
This is
and you should start think about doing workshops, maybe like weekend workshops, Amanda. Or have you done that yet? Because that would be a great thing for you.
Yeah, I have done. And actually, for the people that have bought the book, I'm doing a like a free Ignite Your Inner Tuition workshop on the 13th of March at 8 o'clock. So they can kind of join in on that. So that's another one of my little gifts that people can have when they get the book. Yeah, so
fantastic. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for being on tonight. It was really, I'm so thrilled that you were here. And James, what do you have this week? Do you have something this week?
No, I just finished the Evening of Spirit on Friday, so no, just doing nothing this week. I'm filing my office.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, everybody join me on Thursday. Oh, good. Finish that. Yeah. That would be great. Then I'll send you a copy, Amanda. I mean, we have different paths, but I mean, the same road now, different paths to get there.
It's very similar. I mean, it's
very similar. Yeah, very similar. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Well, thank you really, Amanda, for being on the show tonight. What a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. So lovely to see you all.
And what's your website again, so people can remember? It's
www.thepsychicpsychologist.com, and all my socials are at The Psychic Psychologist.
Psychicpsychologist.com, everybody.
And our producer Renee is in Hawaii on a cruise right now. He told us before when we started this show.
Yeah,
so
literally.
He's going to have a lovely cold ending, and that'll be it. No credits.
Yeah. So sorry about that, everybody, and sorry about that, Amanda.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Kelly. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.